The Battle of the Somme between the French and British allies and Germany was meant to divert the powerful German troops away from the Battle of Verdun in order to demoralize and weaken the German army in that pivotal battle. However, because of unexpected artillery problems and too much land to cover, the British and French armies' intricate plan failed to destroy the Germans and resulted in the killing of many British and French soldiers. Despite the loss, the Battle of the Somme did serve its purpose to pull the Germans away from the Battle of Verdun and save the French army from being crippled by the German might in what was a key strategic battle in World War I. Because everyone had been on edge from all the countries wanting to be bigger, better, stronger, and being all connected, made all the countries on edge and scared of war. When the Archduke Ferdinand was assassinated, it drew everyone over the edge, and everyone took sides, and it started World War I. The world split into alliances. When one country threatened another, each had allies who helped that side, and those allies had their own allies, creating two big sides during World War I, which fought each other. The Battle of the Somme was fought on the Western Front, which was made when the Germans stopped in their advance on France. The Germans began to build trenches and going towards the North Sea, making the French scared of a flank assault. So, the French also went towards the North Sea, creating two parallel trench lines and a space in between called no man's land, in which nobody crossed. The Germans attacked the French at Verdun Cathedral in an attempt to demoralize and weaken the French army and even possibly destroy it. To relieve pressure at Verdun, the British and French in conjunction attacked Germany at the Somme. The British used a volunteer army called Kitchener's Army to start off in their battle, which did not make much of a difference, but many volunteers died instead of drafted soldiers who had had no choice but to join the battle. General Haig was in charge of the assault on the Germans at the Somme River. He came up with the plan to shoot artillery into a portion of the German trenches to destroy the trenches, and then send cavalry and soldiers across no man's land to possibly take over the trenches of the Germans from behind them. There were a few reasons why this plan did not work. First of all, their artillery just were not shooting enough shells and were too spread out, and even the shells that they shot, most of them were faulty. Secondly, the British had too much land to cover. Their artillery was shooting many duds, and the ones that did hit barely did any damage to the German fortress trenches that had concrete and barbed wire surrounding them. So the shells barely did any damage, and the Germans came out unscathed. Last of all, cavalry were not practical in a trench warfare situation, and not in the time period either. Also, the infantry were going way too slow with the heavy packs on their back, and were easily shot down because of how the Germans survived. On just the first day of the Battle of the Somme, July 1st, 1916, the British had lost 57,470 men. The British also had some help from the Canadian Corporation and the Newfoundland Regiment. The Newfoundland Regiment was nearly annihilated at Beaumont Hamel. The Newfoundland Regiment went to help British troops at Beaumont Hamel on a trench called St. John's Road. Rifles were the most common weapon used by soldiers, and the short magazine Lee Enfield rifle Mark III was the standard British issue gun. Mortars are basically bombs that are dropped into a firing tube that hit a firing pin and get launched off and blow up. Aircraft were first used for recon, but were slowly developed into fighting machines equipped with machine guns. In the Battle of the Somme, they even dropped bombs on the Germans. Trench clubs were used for silent trench raids that brought stealth and success to the army. Machine guns caused thousands of casualties. Victor's machine gun could shoot 600 rounds per minute and go 4,500 yards. When water wasn't available to cool down the weapon, soldiers would sometimes pee on it. Lastly, mines were dug under enemy trenches and set off by engineers far away to be used as a quick and quiet weapon. The British had began serious development of the tank before the Battle of the Somme, and they had named it the tank just so no one would know what it could possibly be. It was meant to be used to end trench war stalemates. The tank was first used in the Battle of the Somme. 49 were shipped there, but only 27 made it, and 6 only were actually used and fully to their final purpose of scaring the Germans and using as a heavy weapon to cross the trenches.
And the data is that there's so few tanks and they're so unreliable. They break down all the time. And the first real big tactical breakthrough in 1918, which is on the German side, it has 6 tanks, I think, involved and hundreds of thousands of men.
Trench warfare can become long and monotonous, and many soldiers go on to some regular pastimes, including singing and writing in diaries. Many got sick during their stay in the trench and had to leave just from being there too long.
The thing that was absolutely intimidating was the artillery bombardment. The artillery bombardment could last for hours. There was nothing you could do about it. You couldn't see it coming. You couldn't aim any attack at the enemy artillery battery, which could be miles away. The concussive force of these high explosive shells going off.
After many days, the Battle of the Somme slowly became a battle of attrition. It just kept going and going. Soon, they called a stalemate on the battle. This was because the battlefield was becoming swampish and many people had died on both sides. The British had advanced 12 kilometers. The Battle of the Somme did serve its purpose, though, as it did relieve pressure at the Battle of Verdun, where Germany kept capturing France's forts. Germany had almost gotten France and possibly taking out their whole army, but because of the Battle of the Somme, it relieved pressure to Verdun from the Germans, who spent more units into the Somme. This caused Britain, France, and the rest of the Allies to win World War I. General Haig is criticized greatly for what some say a major failure at the Battle of the Somme, but others would say that he succeeded in the fact that they did technically have the Somme serve its purpose and relieve pressure from the Battle of Verdun. Though he did send many to their death, they did not fail in their main purpose.
So most of the modern histories of Haig and British generalship give them more credit for trying things. It's just that the problem that they faced, which is how do you get large masses of infantry soldiers across a battlefield when your opponent has machine guns.
The Battle of the Somme between the French and British allies and Germany was meant to divert the powerful German troops away from the Battle of Verdun in order to demoralize and weaken the German army in that pivotal battle. However, because of unexpected artillery problems and too much land to cover, the British and French army's intricate plan failed to destroy the Germans and resulted in the killing of many British and French troops. Despite the loss, the Battle of the Somme did serve its purpose to pull the Germans away from the Battle of Verdun and save the French army from being crippled by the German might in what was a key strategic battle in World War I.